What's going on, guys? Loki here, coming back at you with another video, and in today's video we are talking about Bandcamp, that thing that you keep hearing all these things about, and I'll probably be making a few American Pie references in this in correlation to it. So, let's just get that out of the way right now. Let's throw it in right here.
And one time at band camp, we weren't supposed to have pillow fights, but we had a pillow fight, and it was so much fun. And this one time, we all lost our music, and we were supposed to play this song, but we didn't know it. So we just made it up, and we kept playing and playing, and the conductor didn't know what we were doing, and it was so funny.
So in today's video, we're going to be going over my very first day of Bandcamp, and for most of this story to really make sense, I guess I'm going to have to take it back to my very first meetings with these people who I will be talking about. So, I believe it was January, was the very first band meeting for the incoming 8th graders who are going in as freshmen to show up, see what the school is about, stuff like that, and all I wanted to do that day was basically go see the band room, see a little bit of the school, because at that point I thought I was going to a science focus program, but turns out I actually didn't make it into it. So I guess I probably should have went and saw a little bit more of the school, but it is what it is. I know where I'm going now and stuff like that. So there I met a couple of people there who I didn't really realize that I would be stuck with them for the next 4 years, and I may or may not have made a few friends and enemies that day. So let's just say one of their names was David. We'll go with David. And we don't really like each other. I guess we're kind of all right now, but at that moment we weren't really fond of each other. So fast forward a few months to March, there is the very first actual thing that's just for band, and on this day we had about I want to say 50 incoming freshmen who were there meeting the section leadership, which there were 5 of them, and there were 9 incoming freshmen in my entire group. Now, in my last video, I did mention that one of my friends called and said he wanted to go to Illinois' sister and go get ice cream. So he was there. He was and in this group there was one senior, one next year. These are like all the grades that would be coming in for the next year. So there's one senior, and then 3 juniors, and 1 sophomore. And so basically, when we got there, the senior, he goes by Chum Lee. Surprisingly, by the way he acts, it's actually kind of fitting for him. He had half of a trombone with him the entire time, and whenever a new freshman would come out, and let me remind you that there is 9 of us at this time, he would take it and he would play a little tune on just half the trombone without the mouthpiece, without the slide, so it's just like the little horn half, which I'll probably throw up a little picture on the screen so you can see what that looks like right here. So he'd do that, and 9 of us, and the rest of the people there were getting pretty mad because he just kept on doing this, followed by, "We have another!" with cheering and stuff like that. So the rest of the band isn't really fond of the trombone, which that's kind of one of our stereotypes, which, don't encourage us or encourage us, because that makes it a lot more fun. So this is my really second run-in with my section of the people who I'll be stuck with the next 9 years. Like I said, Dave wasn't there. I don't think he was there, at least I don't remember he was there. So there were about 6, 7 of us there who were there for the orientation and stuff like that. We were getting our paperwork done, and we were getting to know each other. Nicknames were kind of being issued, and that day I didn't get a nickname or anything like that, so nothing happened there. But we'd learn names, stuff like that, kind of got familiar with each other, favorite Pokemon, school we were coming from, stuff like that. And that's basically another night there. But then so I guess let's fast forward a few more months into June. So in June, there were these Music Mondays, as they called them. And for these Music Mondays, they were rehearsals that would go from 1 o'clock to 2:30, and then 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock, kind of cutting in half the band with like woodwinds going one time, brass in the other, and then like drumline and color guard would do their own thing whenever they were doing that throughout the entire time. So, being a brass player playing trombone, we were there for the second half, which was the 2:30 to 4 o'clock. And so there were 3 of these, I believe. And on the very first one, Austin, our section leader, again, probably one of my favorite people in the entire section, no offense to anyone else who may or may not be watching this, he decided to bring pina coladas and his little cooler that his dad transferred into a speaker, which is really cool. So they had like non-alcoholic pina coladas in the band room, and people were like crowding around and stuff like that. So like I kind of was like warming up as the kid who was coming from the school that most kids didn't come from. Like we had like 5 kids from our school going into a class of like 1,400 of like, I guess the school's like 1,400, but we had 5 kids coming from my middle school, which got a little awkward at some time. But you know, at this moment, I'm starting to warm up to our section. You know, we're having a good time. We're starting to like figure things out, and things are going great. So we do the music stuff, and then afterwards, like, hey, you guys want to go get food? And like, I can't because I have to go home, and my mom's being kind of annoying about it. So I don't go, and I don't really do anything. So next Music Monday basically goes about the same thing, just a little differently. Like hula hoop, like basically Hawaiian stuff shows up this time. So we have these like Hawaiian necklaces, stuff like that. I can't think of the name of it right now, but he brought those, and so he brought those, and it turned out it was basically the same thing as last time. Like, you know, these guys are weird, just like me. Everything is going great, and then so about a month later, not to mention that these kids think I am still 14, and at the time my birthday passed literally like 3 days ago, like less than a week ago. I'm not sure exactly what day it was, but it was less than a week ago I turned 15, and then so no one was believing me that I was 15 when I was like, hey, how old are you, stuff like that. And so I'm telling them 15, they're not believing me because I told them 14 literally a couple weeks ago, and they didn't realize my birthday was there, and they wouldn't believe me. So we're going to the first day, we're doing, you know, the usual meeting stuff, going over names again, because let's face it, meeting someone 3 times isn't really enough to get to know their name perfectly, imagine with their face and stuff like that, especially when, you know, you haven't talked to these guys, you haven't added them on anything like Facebook, Twitter, whatever. So we're still meeting, you know, and the first thing that catches my eye is, you know, we went over our name, the school we were coming from, the grade we were going into, our favorite Pokemon, which is kind of like a staple for us, and then the little added extra thing for the very first day of band camp was our favorite sex position. Now this, being a bunch of high schoolers, most of us haven't done it yet, and our school is probably one of the cleanest ones out there, because I think every other high school in my city, which are 6 other high schools, we are the only ones who do not have a daycare built into the school. So lo and behold, most of us haven't actually done anything yet. So at this point, it's basically who can get the biggest laugh out of the group. So, you know, there's the usual 69 doggy, you know, everything that you'd expect. But then people decided to pull out the funny ones, which my personal favorite was the reverse upside down Spider-Man, followed by the Scooby and Shaggy dog and paw. And you know, these things were just kind of going around. It was just all for a good laugh. And then it got to me, and I just kind of fell on the ground laughing. In my head, I'm thinking of something really funny, and it just comes out of like the Bill Cosby Puddin' Pop. Now this was right as that whole Bill Cosby thing was coming out last year. Well, like 2 years ago, I guess now. So this whole new Bill Cosby thing was coming out, and everyone was just dying laughing. It was probably one of the best things that happened that day. So, the Bill Cosby Puddin' Pop was my favorite sex position as it goes. So, you know, write that down, you might get a good laugh out of it. So, you know, then we go into the warm-up, stuff like that, which most of us don't know. We're learning how to march, because this is still freshman day. may I mind you. So there's only leadership and freshmen there. So there's about 14 of us, but there's actually 19 of us in total. So we still haven't met everyone. And I guess at this point, it's probably towards the end of the morning shift, and we're going into the afternoon shift, which the morning shift is from 9 o'clock to noon. And then there's like an hour lunch break from noon to 1. And then there's another 3 hours after that from 1 to 4. And so during the lunch break, we go out to lunch. Everything's going fine. You know, the usual things. Most of us, because, you know, we're freshmen and we can't drive, we just walk about 2 blocks to a little, I guess you could call it a little strip mall. And, you know, there's like the local, there's like a taco place, burger place, sandwich place, stuff like that, Jimmy John's. You know, so most of us are going there, but some of us are hopping in rides with the leadership who can drive, and they went places, and we went to Taco Bell. My stomach cannot handle Taco Bell very well. And may I mention, I had $5 to spend on lunch, which basically any fast food place is very, very hard to do unless you're ordering off the value menu. So I ended up buying like 4 tacos, and those did not rest well with my stomach. They did not. So throughout that entire 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock period, my stomach is feeling a little icky. You know, I'm not feeling very well. I feel like I gotta go to the bathroom, but I really don't. It was just a mess. So then, basically, towards the end of that 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock shift, we are discussing the plans for the night. So one of our traditions at our school for the trombone section is that every single year during band camp, we watch The Big Lebowski. And if you do not know what The Big Lebowski is, do a couple meme searches. You'll find some pretty good ones. But as we're discussing this, I mentioned that my older brother, who played trombone, was there 5 years beforehand, and he kind of knew the senior, but not really, because they just like met once and then never again. And his name, like his nickname, was Donnie. Now, Donnie is kind of the kicked around guy in The Big Lebowski. And that's what he was named after. And because my older brother was Donnie, the nickname Donnie came onto me. Now, I personally did not want anything to do being named after something that my older brother was, especially since he quit his senior year and I ended up getting his trombone, which that's basically all I really want left of him for my music career, being like after him, I guess. So then I was like, you know, I'll just deal with this. So it's probably a temporary thing. You know, it could be worse. I could be the guy who got the nickname Taco, which I have no idea how that happened. You know, we had some guy who was alphabet for like a week, I guess, into the school year. Things just didn't really stay. There was Skipper, Ass Man, you know, parody of his last name. I won't give out his last name, but he went by Houston Ass Man. And, you know, Chumley, Wallace, Fricky, stuff like that. So in reality, I guess I didn't have the worst one, but I didn't have the best one, so I was like, you know what, it's probably just a temporary thing, I can stick through it. So we're making the plans to see The Big Lebowski, and we agree that we're going to our section leader's house, Austin, which, you know, I'm okay, and I realized that he's about 2 blocks away from my house. So I had the choice of either having my older sister driving me, which she doesn't live with us anymore because she lives in Nashville now. And so I had the option of her driving me there and picking me up, or I could walk there and then just walk home. Now, I didn't realize that this was going to be as long as a walk as I thought it was. Because, you know, there's a park literally right there across the street from where he lives. So usually I had to like ride my bike down there, you know, bring my baseball stuff, so, you know, play around and stuff like that, maybe just go for a bike ride. But it took me 15 minutes to walk there, and it was 98 degrees that day. So when I got there, I was drenched in sweat. I was carrying some like Oreos or some sort of cookies and popcorn and stuff like that. So my arms were getting a little tired. I just walked like a quarter of a mile. So I get here, and the first thing I see is another Alex. Now, keep in mind that in the section there were two Alexes, me, and this other Alex, and an Alexis. So, basically, I was guaranteed to keep the nickname of Donnie, and he still calls me Donnie to this day. But I guess later that night, as we were watching the Big Lebowski, someone mentioned that I look like Steve Buscemi, who happens to play Donnie in the Big Lebowski. And then Shumley, being the great man he is, as always, he's a freaking legend. He's a great guy. He says, you know what? Let's not name him after his older brother. Let's give him Steve Buscemi. Now, I'm okay with Steve, which is kind of funny in my mind because I have an uncle named Steve on each side of my family, so that gets kind of confusing. So like whenever I'm at like a family gathering, someone says, "Oh, Steve this, Steve that," I react just as much as they do. Now, little did I realize that this nickname of Steve would stick to me for the rest of high school, and it's at the point where some teachers have found out about it and will call me Steve on the regular basis. Like, I emailed a teacher for a job reference the other day, and I was like, hey, I was in your 9th grade English class, could I use you as a job reference? And he's like, who are you again? I was the one they called Steve Buscemi, and like instantly emails me back within 5 minutes, bottom of the screen, sent from my phone. So I thought that was kind of funny. Well, so I guess this is kind of the end of the story. I guess I really have more of these. I have 2 years worth. That was only the first day with a little bit of build up and background and stuff like that. But most of the other stories like I have like this are probably a lot shorter. Like I have a good one. I'm not even gonna tell you. I'll leave you guys that for the next one. So you're probably still watching a little bit of gameplay in the background. Spoiler alert, we don't get the triple 100 plus. Thanks, Great Disciple. All your fault. You would have won that one gunfight, you could have had it. So, I hope you guys did enjoy the video. I do have more of these stories. I have basically another 20 days worth of stories just like this one. So, if you guys did enjoy the video, drop a like. Let me know in the comments if you guys have any sort of Bandcamp-like stories down below. And hopefully I did use plenty of American Pie references at this point. And hopefully, if you guys don't want any more, let me know. I don't have to tell these stories. If you do like them, let me know. I will make more of these. So, as always guys, it has been Loki, and I will see you in the next video.